The Advisory Plan Commission is a 7-member board that oversees policies regarding the growth and development of Avon, Indiana. Issues that come before the Advisory Planning Commission include transportation planning, environmental planning, long-range planning, zoning code compliance, and review of development proposals and permits. Plans that are developed by the Advisory Plan Commission include comprehensive plan, comprehensive zoning ordinance, subdivision control ordinance, and official zoning maps. The Advisory Plan Commission meets once a month at Avon Town Hall. A full schedule of their public meetings can be found online at avonindiana.gov.
Welcome to the Town of Avon Advisory Plan Commission meeting. If you are interested in having a copy of the agenda, they are available on the tables to the right of the audience. We will be conducting business as outlined on the agenda. From time to time, the board may deviate from the agenda. As Vice President of this body, I will inform those in attendance of any deviations. This meeting is being recorded for the public record. Because of this, we request that personal conversations are kept to a minimum and that all cell phones are set to vibrate. Any phone calls shall be taken outside the chambers. If you are interested in commenting during the public hearing portion of the Commission's deliberations, please sign up on the sheets located on the tables to the right of the audience. When your name is called, please step forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Please address your comments to the board and not to the staff or the petitioner. Your comments should relate directly to the case at hand. During the conduct of the public hearing portion of the Commission's deliberations, the petitioner will have 10 minutes to present their case to the Commission. Remonstrators will have 10 minutes to present objections to the petition. Persons in support of the petition other than the petitioner will have 10 minutes to present support for the petition. Finally, the petitioner will close the public hearing portion of the presentation with a 5-minute rebuttal period. Once the public hearing is closed, no additional testimony will be heard unless it is solicited by the members of the Commission during the question and answer phase of the Commission's deliberations. Subdivision plat and development plat petitions are ministerial requests, meaning that if the proposal meets the requirements set forth in the town's development ordinances, the Plan Commission must approve the request. In the interest of transparency, state law requires that the Plan Commission hold a public hearing even if the development proposal must be approved. Responses to public comments and questions may be given once the public hearing portion is closed. We do understand there may be several persons who wish to speak. In order to keep the meeting running in a timely fashion, we would request that you not repeat previous comments. Thank you for your assistance in facilitating a respectful, fair, and timely meeting. Again, welcome to our meeting. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for
all. Roll call, please.
Catherine Ransberg. Paul Guggenberger.
Here.
Bill Reed.
Here.
Dave Kaufman.
Here.
Jennifer Spencer. Mason Pike. Absent. Greg Zuzan.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the August 28th and September 25th meetings. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes and any revisions or corrections?
Make a motion to approve the August 28th and the September 25th minutes as presented.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Okay. Minutes are approved. Public comment. We'll open up a public comment for anybody who would like to make a comment or address the commission or anything not on the docket for tonight. And if you'd come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Ron Fraser, 8806 Prairie Trail. The board with was in regards to the process, when a petitioner sends out a letter to the public being affected by it, by a change. My understanding is when that letter is received, we had a situation where the letter was received from the lawyer by the group or the area that I'm part of, and within 7 days, we got together research information and provided that to the town of Avon, and was told that information would not be included because it didn't come in a timely manner. I don't know how we could have got it there sooner, but my concern is that the petitioner seems to have an advantage in this process compared to people who want to have an objection. So the petitioner's information is sent forward to the board, yet our information, which we got within 7 days, was not provided to you guys until tonight. So my question is, our consideration doesn't seem to be taken into account until the actual item is brought up, and you've got to both listen to us and our objections as well as trying to flip through the research that we were able to do. So my question, or my issue, is around the process that's employed here and the time we have to be able to provide something to you guys before this meeting.
Okay. So, sir, I'm going to ask you a question. And again, this is in regards to what case?
It's in regards to the townhouses that are going near the Prairie Manor.
So I'd ask you then to make that comment again during public comment at that time, because it pertains to that case, even though it's a process question.
Okay, so I'll do that.
But noted that, and I will take note of that too, and I'll pass that on to staff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments not related to any of the cases tonight? Okay, then we'll close public comment and move on to requests for continuances and agenda modifications.
Yeah, we have 2 items on the agenda tonight. The staff is requesting a continuance. The first one is DPR 2313, a convenience store located 1137 North Avon Avenue, which is a development plan approval for a 2,500 square foot gas station and convenience store. We're still waiting on revised plans on that one. That one, they have, I believe, until March to get a public hearing on that one. And because we don't have the revised plans that we need, we are requesting a continuance to November 27th. The second item on the agenda is ZA 2303, which is a UDO text amendment. The staff has been preparing now for a couple months. We're going through it, and we're still finding corrections and additions and deletions that need to be made. So we would ask that this one be continued until November 27th as well, so we can finalize a copy to get to you. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Does the commission have any questions for staff? Then entertain a proposal for DPR 2313.
I'll go ahead and make that motion that we file a continuance for DPR 23-13 to the November 27th Planning Commission meeting.
Second.
Does this require a roll call, or can we do it? Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass. And motion for ZA 2303.
I make a motion that we continue ZA 23-03, 2023 UDO text amendments until the November 27th Plan Commission meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Okay, moving on to old business.
DPR 2306, Sudan Trucking. This is a request for approval of a development plan to construct a truck trailer parking and maintenance facility. It's a 3.14 acre property located at approximately 8379 Kingston Street. There is a little bit of history on this one. There's a special exception for a gravel parking lot that was done this year, and a variance for a fence in the front yard in Tier 3 of the US 36 Overlay District. Both of those were reviewed and approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals, I believe, at their June meeting. This is the general location on Kingston Street. This is the CSX yard down here. As I said before, this is a request for development plan approval to construct a truck maintenance and commercial storage facility on the site. The petition has been amended, and the amended request deviates from the requirements of the ordinance in two respects. First, that there is a fence in the front yard on the storage lot, and then the storage lot is currently proposed to be half gravel, half concrete. A variance and a special exception, as you heard earlier, were approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals for these two deviations from the ordinance, subject to some conditions. The amended request that was filed about 2-3 weeks ago is consistent with the UDO except for those two issues from the Board of Zoning Appeals that the Board of Zoning Appeals approved deviations on. And this is the site. What the board did approve the fence that surrounds this storage area to create a secure facility. And they did approve a gravel lot, but the Board of Zoning Appeals requested by condition was that the northern half of the lot be asphalt or concrete. The petitioner has submitted amended plans. This is the break point. It's asphalt, I think concrete north, asphalt or gravel to the south. This is the appearance of the structure on the property. It's largely masonry. There's a sort of a wainscoting wall here and here. The front is heavily masonry. And this is in Tier 3 of the US 36. So this building here complies with the requirements of the Tier 3 of the US 36 Overlay District. We do recommend that it be approved. We have an approval subject to our 3 standard conditions. One of the conditions that isn't on here that we have been including previously is that future revised plans that are distributed for the pre-construction meeting include the most recent updates to the Town of Avon engineering standards. So we are asking at for a fourth condition that the most recent standard specifications of the Town of Avon be included in the plan set as part of the pre-construction meeting. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for staff?
Regarding the concrete, is there a certain depth that the concrete has to be because of the type of trucks, the heavy duty trucks? And then how does that match our roads as well out front?
That I'm not exactly certain. I know that the engineering firm that designed it did design it for truck traffic. Obviously, you couldn't put asphalt in it, which I think is, I'm nearly certain that that's heavy duty concrete there. But I'm not exactly certain of the answer to the question as far as how it compares to our road standards.
Is this location on Kingston Street? There is a dip in the road there. Is this by this location? It has nothing to do with this, but my concern is there's already a dip in the road and.
What's that? I think, I'm not certain, but Ian seems to think that it's a little bit east of the dip.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, with that, then ask the petitioner to come forward, and if you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. I'm Dale Cruz, Cruz Consulting, 7384 Business Center Drive here in Avon. First of all, I want to start with a thank you to the board and to staff, because this has been on your agenda for a long time. I've had a summer to forget with an illness, myself, my daughter, and this thing has been on the agenda way longer than it needed to be, and I appreciate your consideration with leaving it on the agenda. So, but I think for it being on the agenda as long as it has, what it has done is it's allowed us to get a plan together that I believe meets all of the requirements, and we have gotten all the approvals outside of bill that we need to get. We've gotten the drainage plan reviewed and approved. We got our erosion control plan reviewed and approved. We've got our BZA approvals done. And I think we have a plan now that basically meets all of the requirements. Bill, can you go back to that site plan? I just want to add just a couple of things. I mean, there's not much more for me to add besides what he's already told you. The facility, the building on the property wants to be approximately 5,000 square feet. He showed you the elevation views, but the building itself here, approximately 5,000 square feet. There's 3 bays for maintenance, and then there's 28 parking spaces for truck and trailer, and then there's 8 parking spaces here for passenger vehicles for people in and out of the facility. Like you said, it's got a fence all the way around, and we were at BZA for approval to have a fence in the front yard, and that approval came with the requirement to have a decorative wrought iron fence, and so that's in our plans now. It's been included in our plans. Drainage was approved by Greg Gilco and his crew, outlet to the CSX ditch along the CSX right away. And Greg, your question about the pavement section, it's an 8-inch thick concrete section on 6 inches of stones, which is a total of 14 inches of thickness, which is plenty for what we're trying to do here. And then this back piece back here is allowed to be stone. And that's really about all I could add to what Bill's already told you. I'd be happy to answer questions, so if you have any.
For petition. Okay, go ahead and move into public comment. This time we'll open up public comment at 6:47. Sorry, turn my mic on. At this time we'll open public comment at 6:47.
I see no one signed up for this petition.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to come forward and speak on this case? Okay, then we'll go ahead and close public comment and deliberations by the commission.
Our engineering people have looked at this and they're okay. I'm looking on page 3, number 8. It looked like there were still some outstanding issues. There were no significant issues, but there was really no response to it. So I don't know if Greg saw that or not.
I think that the information you have in there is just a little bit dated, and Greg has looked at the both of them. He's cleared the development and issued the SWIP approval as well.
I know we've looked at this before, and maybe for information for the commission, the fencing is intended to match the fencing that's lining Kingston Street there, so that it'll have a uniform look. And then the paved and gravel component of the lot matches the same as another site that was approved the same split gravel and cement. So it's consistent with what we've seen before on Kingston Street for this type of facility. Any other comments, questions? Okay, and just for the record here, I would agree with staff's finding here that it meets the requirements of the DPR. So again, it's ministerial. If we find that it meets the requirements, the question I have then for staff and council is like, because Bill, you added a fourth condition here that's not in the findings here. Do we need to state that specifically, or can we reference the fourth finding as identified by staff?
I think we just state it.
Stated,
Yeah.
okay, that as specifically stated? Okay. So the motion should read that motion with the conditions. Would someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve case number DPR 23-06 Sudan Trucking Development Plan. A request for approval of a development plan to develop a truck trailer parking and maintenance facility subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report on file. One, any revised plans must comply with all commitments and conditions noted as part of any approval granted. Two, a landscape bond is required per section 4-9 zoning ordinance. This bond must be provided to the town of Avon prior to the issuance of a full certificate of occupancy for the subject site. Three, the development shall comply with all relevant portions of town code and comments by Public Works, the fire department, and Crossroads Engineering at pre-construction meeting. And any future revised plans included must include recent updates of engineering standards. Hopefully I got the fourth one.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Greg Susan, second by Dave Kaufman. A roll call vote, please.
Paul Guckenberger,
4.
Bill Reed,
4.
Dave Kaufman,
4.
Jennifer Spencer, Greg Zuzen,
4.
motion carries.
Motion passed. Thank you. Okay, move on to DPR 2310 Avon Business Park.
DPR 2310 Avon Business Park. This is a request for approval of a development plan to approve 6 new flex industrial buildings of 12,000 square feet each for a total of 72,000 square feet in the development. It's a 5.2 acre property located at approximately 8360 Kingston Street. This request has 4 waivers associated with it. One waiver of the UDO section 2.1003A 7.11D to request to allow the use of canopies and unit colors in place of the articulation required by the ordinance. A waiver of section 2.1002C request to allow relief from 2 different materials on the building facades. Waiver of UDO 2.10A to B, request to use metal panels and masonry on the building facades, and a waiver of section 2.1002A, a request to allow modification of the masonry percentages on the building facades. There's no real history on this particular piece of property. It's zoned industrially. I2, the land use that's being proposed is flex industrial, similar to the RISE development that the Plan Commission heard several years ago, that's being constructed right now on Ronald Reagan Parkway. Although this is a smaller site than the site of the RISE development. It'd be a land use that contractors and other sorts of uses could rent and have an office in the storage area in it and operate a business out of that. Sort of a move up type of thing where a land use outgrows their home and needs to find a place, but they aren't as big as necessary to custom build their own site or lease a much larger industrial space. As I said, it's 6 12,000 square foot buildings for a total of 72,000 square feet. Property is zoned I2. It's located in tiers 2 and 3 of the US Highway 36 overlay. The request does include the waivers that you've heard before about the architectural standards of the US 36 overlay, and the commissioner has submitted findings in support of those deviations. The staff had concurred in those original ones, and the petitioner seemed to met the requirements of those findings. However, the petition was heard by the Plan Commission at its June meeting, and the Plan Commission was not convinced, or at least exhibited a reluctance that the petitioner had met the findings required to approve those waivers. And after a public hearing and some discussion by the commission, the petitioner requested a continuance so that they could do some redesign on the structures. So a revised set of plans and elevations were filed. They did file those and they did make some changes. The northern facades of buildings 5 and 6, which were the buildings with a metal that faced US 36, they did substitute 100% brick on that particular facade in lieu of using the metal panels for that one. 30% brick was incorporated into the side facades of buildings 3 and 4, which are the two middle buildings that did not have masonry on them. And the buildings facing Kingston Street incorporated some more glass in the frontages, awnings and canopies. They connected the sidewalks from Kingston Street to this site, and they enhanced the landscaping to give it a little bit more curved appeal. These changes did address many of the concerns that were expressed by the Plan Commission at that June meeting. However, the waivers are still necessary because some of the buildings don't comply totally with the requirements of the ordinance. With the waivers, the request does meet the requirements of the UDO. This is the site plan. The amendments that you've seen were basically right up here, connecting these sidewalks up here. They've enhanced some of the landscaping of it and given you an idea here of what the frontage would look like from Kingston Street with landscaping installed and a little bit matured, and the design of the site, the amended design site, or I'm sorry, the elevations. Again, we do recommend approval of these waiver requests, and we do recommend approval of DPR 2310, subject to the conditions. And you can see on this one, we actually have the fourth condition outlined on there, and the plan shall be amended to include the most recent version of the Town of Avon construction standards prior to the pre-construction meeting. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for staff? So Bill, in reviewing this, for me, what I see is what they had submitted before with a lot of the improvements of what we asked for. I mean, even the renderings look a lot different than what we saw before.
Yeah, they incorporate a lot of them. Obviously, these industrial buildings, they had difficulty in doing the articulation that's necessarily required for these. And what they had proposed to do was that, so the two main concerns that I remember from the meeting was, one, the visual appeal from US 36. The commission did not want a metal panel wall facing US 36. And then they were concerned about the appearance of the structure from Kingston Street. They wanted it to incorporate a little bit more glass than what they'd proposed, and they wanted access directly from Kingston Street sidewalks. And the petitioner did do those things.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for staff?
I don't recall any, no. I think the commission's historical bent usually is comply with the ordinance, and that's usually what you all usually tell petitioners when they come before you.
Just a reminder for commissioners, make sure your mics are on when you speak, please. Just like I got reminded.
Thank you, Mr. Gutenberg.
All right, if there's no other questions for staff, and I ask the petitioner to come forward. If you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Ben Comer, 71 West Marion Street, Danville, Indiana, 46122. I'm here representing the petitioner. Thank you. Who is Avon Business Park LLC, and these gentlemen are with me and us tonight in the audience to help answer any questions. I'm not going to go through the full DPR analysis. They did that back in June. So in the spirit of time and everyone's time in here, I won't go through the full DPR. We do believe we meet the DPR, other than the waiver requests that are before you. We do meet the DPR, and we do believe we meet those waiver request criteria as well. Just to reiterate a few points, I did read the minute notes, the minutes from that June hearing, and I do believe all the concerns were met. Concern number one about the Kingston Street curb appeal, the more glass was done, as Bill said. They also added awning and canopies to the building to try to give each unit its own look as a storefront for the curb appeal, and then the connecting sidewalks and the landscaping as well to bring curb appeal. These buildings use modern brick and trim colors, and together, all of that meets the spirit of the UDO. The second one was the north-facing facades with the metal. They've deliberately minimized the use of metal paneling in this project. There's some other buildings in this area that do use the metal paneling, and this one really does not. It emphasizes brick 100% on the north facades, and then middle buildings adding some brick there as well. So all those things together, most of this project lies in the tier 3, and we meet the tier 3, but some of it lies in the tier 2, and we don't quite get to the tier 2, and that is what generates these waiver requests. So we believe we've got it. Staff believes we've got it. I hope you believe we've got it. Thank you for your time.
Any questions for the petitioner? All right, seeing none. Thank you. We'll
Thank you.
move on to public comment. Has anybody signed up to speak?
No one has signed up.
Okay, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak on this case, please feel free to do so at this time. And seeing no one coming forward, we'll close public comment and move to deliberations. And I mean, I'll just start. I think what we received and see before us here is the petitioner listen and address the concerns that we expressed in the last meeting. And I think when I looked at the renderings here is totally different depiction of the buildings and layout, especially that view from Kingston Street, and then doing the brick on the north side of the buildings and on the both sides in the middle building. Just, I think they listened, and thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I know you guys don't like to see a lot of waivers, but I think they did a really good job listening to everything we said last time.
Yeah. Any other comments? Okay, then we're going to go through the waivers one at a time. So someone would like to make a motion on waiver A.
I make a motion that we approve the waiver of section 2-1003A/7.11D of the Unified Development Ordinance to allow for the use of canopies and unit colors in place of articulation associated with DPR 23-10 Avon Business Park Development Plan.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on waiver A. Have a roll call vote, please.
Paul Kuchenberger,
4.
Bill Reed,
4.
Dave Kaufman,
4.
Jennifer Spencer,
4.
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Motion carries. Waivers.
Okay. Take a motion on waiver B.
I'll do it. I move that we approve the waiver of section 2.1002C of the Unified Development Ordinance to allow relief from 2 different materials on building facades associated with DPR 2310 Avon Business Park.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Paul Kuchenberger,
4.
Bill Reed,
4.
Dave Kaufman,
4.
Jennifer Spencer,
4.
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Motion carries. Waiver B is approved.
Okay. Motion on waiver C.
I'll go and make the motion for waiver C for the Unified Development Ordinance 2-1002B, allowing for the request to allow the use of metal panels and masonry on building facades for DPR 23-10 Avon Business Park Development Plan.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Paul Guckenberger,
4.
Bill Reed,
4.
Dave Kaufman,
4.
Jennifer Spencer,
4,
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Motion carries. Waiver C is approved.
And a motion on waiver D.
I'll go and make that motion for waiver D for the Unified Development Ordinance 2-10 02A, request to allow modification of masonry percentages on building facades as applied to DPR 23-10 for the Avon Business Park Development Plan.
Second.
And can we have a roll call vote?
Paul Guckenberger,
4.
Bill Reed,
4.
Dave Kaufman,
4.
Jennifer Spencer,
4,
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Motion carries. Waiver D is approved.
So with those waivers, the DPR meets the requirements as outlined in staff report. So can I have a motion to approve DPR 2310?
I'll make that motion to approve DPR 23-10 for the Avon Business Park Development Plan.
I'll second.
And before we do the roll call vote, we need to add per the conditions as outlined in staff's report. So if you would modify your motion,
Can you put those conditions up on the screen?
or I think all the conditions and reports that we could do just as in staff report.
They're
all this time.
That way. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I will go ahead and make that motion then that we approve DPR 23-10 for the Avon Business Park Development Plan, subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report.
I'll second.
Now roll call vote, please.
Paul Guckenberger,
4.
Bill Reed,
4.
Dave Kaufman,
4.
Jennifer Spencer,
4,
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Motion carries. The development plan is approved.
DPR 2310 passes. Thank you.
I want to thank you also for adhering to our wishes. Thank you.
To DPR 2314 Harvest Landing Lot 2.
This is a request for approval of a development plan review to allow for the development of 2 multi-tenant commercial buildings with their associated parking, drainage, landscaping, and utility infrastructure. History behind the lot is various past petitions associated with the entire Harvest Landing subdivision, but none specific to this lot. The VAR 2314 Harvest Landing Lot 2 dumpster was approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals at their meeting on Thursday, or Tuesday, I should say, to allow for the placement of 3 dumpsters along North County Road 900 East. Located at 8499 Dr. Charles Nelson Drive, Avon, Indiana. That's Harvest Landing Lot 2. That is the last lot that has not been approved a development on. An 8.7 acre lot located here at the intersection of 900 and Dr. Charles Nelson here. It's a request for approval of a development plan, as I said, to allow for those 2 multi-tenant commercial buildings. The buildings are to be 32,000 square feet and 27,450 square feet in ground floor area. This property is zoned C2 and is located in Tier 3 of the US Highway 36 Overlay District. Here's an updated plan of the lot. I believe that the plan that was sent with your packets didn't include this, but I provided you with an update with this this access here, this ride in, ride out access along 900 there. I mentioned it in our staff report. They had initially removed it, but as a requirement from our Public Works Department, they've been instructed to re-include it. So they're actively making arrangements with Public Works to design this access here. So we have building 1 and building 2 here with their associated parking. Now, we do find this proposal to meet the standards of the Unified Development Ordinance, except for two instances in which they've requested a waiver. The first one would be for a landscape buffer to the north of the property here. We'll get into that shortly. And then they have also asked for a waiver for the articulation requirements. And we'll get further into the details there as well. Waiver A seeks to allow for a reduced landscape buffer width. So section 6.8D of the Unified Development Ordinance states that where a commercial district or industrial district abuts a residential district or use, a landscape buffer at least 30 feet wide with a solid year-round screen at least 8 feet high is required. Due to site constraints, they are requesting a 27.3 foot wide buffer. So we're really just losing 2.7 feet there. To address that, they've actually added quite a bit more evergreen tree plantings here than is required by ordinance along the northern boundary here to create a more effective screen from that district to the north. 6.8D1 states that landscape buffer screens can be achieved using evergreen trees or shrubs planted at a rate of at least one tree or shrub for every 30 feet of yard length. The petitioner, however, proposes evergreen tree plantings every 17 feet rather than 30, resulting in nearly double the required plantings along the entirety of the yard length there. So we find this request to be reasonable and favorable, and we find that they meet the criteria outlined in section 8.16, and we therefore recommend approval of waiver A. We then have waiver B for the articulation. I also alluded to this in your staff report as well, that we had noticed it, but we hadn't received a waiver for it yet. So on your table, they have provided you with that waiver in which they provide their justifications for the criteria there. And section 7.10D states that facades greater than 100 feet in length must incorporate wall plane projections or recesses having a depth of at least 3 feet and extending at least 20 feet. As I said, since the publishing of the staff report, they have provided us with a revised building plan that shows the required articulation throughout all the building facades, except for a small portion on the westernmost side of the northern facade. This is that portion there that does not meet the articulation requirements. The rest of the articulation is met through the use of like porticos throughout the building facade there. Here they are constrained due to the site. They have an aisle drive along here with parking, and they also have that landscape buffer to the north. So they can't reduce their building size, but they also can't encroach further into that drive aisle there. So they're just seeking this articulation waiver for this wall. Building 2 also meets the articulation requirements. We are just talking about this wall here. So we find that due to their site constraint.
I don't usually do this, but I
Sure.
want to jump in. If you'd go back to this. So because we got additional materials here,
Mhm.
to follow you, which building is this
This-
and what side of that is that on?
This is going to be the northernmost building, building 1, and it's going to be the north side of that building there.
So the articulation is the east side of that building.
The west side is what they're seeking the waiver for.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So due to their site constraints, and we find that the supplemental landscaping screening that they are planting on the north side of the north property line does lend itself to meeting the criteria for this waiver request as well. We find it to be reasonable and favorable, and it meets the criteria, and we recommend approval of waiver B as well. With that, if the commission chooses to approve the waivers, we do recommend approval of DPR 2314, subject to the following conditions here. Most of our standard conditions, however, we have added that an egress access shall be provided along North County Road 900 East as required by the Department of Public Works. And that revised site plan shall be submitted to the zoning administrator for approval prior to the scheduling of a pre-construction meeting. And with that, I am available for questions.
So do you have a question?
Sure.
We got several pieces of additional material tonight. I am not a fan of having to read this during the meeting and try to come up to speed with what's been submitted. And I'm also not a fan of the petitioner providing materials to you. And I want to make sure you've had time to look at this because we rely on your review of the materials. Did you have sufficient time to review the materials before the meeting to be able to make a timely recommendation?
Yes, although they arrived on your desk today, I've had them for several days and have had adequate time to review them.
Okay.
Maybe the question is, did you get the information after you sent us our packet for tonight's meeting?
Yes, however, I informed the petitioner of it slightly before. As I'm writing the staff report, I realized that the articulation requirements weren't met. So I can bear some of the blame of that in that I didn't give them ample time. But that's just it's the way it works sometimes, and that I'm reviewing multiple plans and I can only get to them
Right. Well,
as
that's
I'm
why
able to.
I think when they all don't come in together, it makes it a little harder to do that. So I just want to make sure the commission knows. I want to make sure you feel comfortable with reviewing the materials tonight as we go through this. And if you feel like you don't have enough time to make a good judgment on that, we'll discuss that during deliberations. With that, any other questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, then we'll ask the petitioner to come forward. And if you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Dylan Reynolds with Space Co., the civil engineer on the project at 3850 Priority Way South Drive, Suite 110, Indianapolis. I also have Jason Miller with me, the architect on the project, if there's any specific architectural questions that he can help answer. The project as a whole, I don't have much to add other than what Ian had kind of presented, but knowing there's really two pieces of information that got submitted a little later than we would have liked. One being the County Road 900 entrance. The entrance was originally proposed and then it went away, and then Public Works requested that it come back. So that's what we did, and what Ian had up on the screen is very close to what Steve Moore with Public Works wants to see. We're just working through final detailing of a few dimensions and curb lines and that kind of thing. So we're very close on that aspect of it being final. Regarding the building articulation, first, thanks to Ian for letting us submit that information and still being here tonight. That's greatly appreciated in an effort to keep this project moving forward. And we appreciate your guys' consideration for taking a look at it here tonight as well. So I or Jason will be happy to answer if there's specific questions on those requests, or as the project as a whole, we can help answer any questions you have.
Question I have is, this is probably the third development that you've done on this total project. You've got the crumble cookie, chicken salad chicks, First Watch. Is this any different than that property?
Yeah, I think architecturally it is a little different. Jason, I don't know if you want to speak to the architectural style. It is different than those two.
You state your name and address, please.
Yes, Jason Miller, 253 West 16th Street, Speedway, Indiana. Yes, the architecture on this building is gabled roofs. It's pitched versus a flat roof that we see on Lot 7 and Lot 4. Although the exterior finish material substituted the Nichiha panel for the masonry, this particular project, we're doing lap siding with the same colorway as what's on Lot 7, but architecturally, it's certainly different.
Does that meet our standards?
Yes, it does.
And lot 5, I think, is between Raising Cane and Swenson's. And
Yes, that's Lot 4, yes.
thank you.
Do you have a question? So I'm going to going to ask you to walk us through waiver B in more detail here. So what staff described, because I'm having a hard time following it, even though my
Sure.
fellow commissioners tried to help me go through this. So could you
Yeah.
again, make sure I understand which building we're talking
Yep.
about?
Ian, can you go to the site plan? That might be more. Yeah. So right there. So north is up. So County Road 900 is on the right side of the screen to the east, and Costco to the west.
Yes.
There we go. I got to figure out. Okay. County Road 900, Costco over here. So we're talking about this portion here. So the requirement is every 100 feet to have an articulation of 3 feet. So since this plan was created, the overall building length's 346-ish feet. So that would be 3 articulations across the back of that building. We are proposing 2 here on the back of the shallower tenant space. And due to some site dimensional constraints as well as the user of that space, the articulation was just some cause of concern for their internal layout of the building, or if it bumped out, having enough room for trucks to pull through there and take deliveries and drop offs and that kind of thing. So it was just one less articulation on the building to kind of help site function and the user for that space.
Okay. Thank you.
Hopefully that helps.
While you're there then, so waiver A then is the same side, and that's your landscaping waiver buffer you want, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And standard is a 30-foot landscape buffer. We're proposing 27.3, which really seems odd, but it's pretty much just to mimic what Costco did to the west to line up the drives and parking stalls.
So that was my next question then. Is this all then uniformly lined up with Costco as well then? That's the reason for why you want to keep it the same way?
Yep, this drive right here, you see that kind of ends to the west. That lines up perfectly with the Costco drive, as well as our parking stalls. The back of them line up with the same ones that are behind Costco.
And then my only other question was, somewhere in my notes here, I had stated that you're required 149 parking spaces. You're proposing 314. So my question was, you couldn't eliminate a few of those parking spaces to bring it into conformance and not have to ask for the waiver?
Well, I think it was a matter of it's the north-south dimension. So just eliminating those, you could push the drive north, but then in a short distance that would curve the drive. So for drop-offs to this larger tenant space, potentially being a semi in some cases, it was just a tough jog over.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, see none. Thank you. We're going to move to public comment.
Thanks.
And we will open for public comment 722.
I have no one signed up for public comment for this petition.
Okay. Would please, yes, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Get the information and we get signed up for some of these things. My name is Raymond Albee. I live at 506 North County Road 900 East. And the comment I want to make, there was several months ago at one of the meetings, there was supposed to be a traffic study done. That has never been done, has it? I didn't think so.
Well, thank you.
The other thing that we have now, how many businesses are we talking about here? I didn't get the information on all this, so I just have a couple of offhanded questions. How many businesses are we talking?
And this is public comment, so you
Yeah,
can note your
Yeah,
questions.
how many tenants are going to be in that building? Anybody
It's
know?
a comment. It's not a question and answer. It's public comment, sir. So.
Okay, however many is going to be in there. As of right now, you can go up 900 East and from Route 36 all the way past the driveway where you run into Costco, where it turns to go into Costco, is backed up past that driveway. people that are wanting to go to 36 and turn right have to go through the Costco lot to be able to go west on 36. So the amount of traffic that this is going to add, along with these other developments that you're talking about tonight. You know, I live right in the S curve. Everybody knows where the S curve is. My driveway is right in the beginning of that S curve. I sat there sometimes for 10 minutes trying to get out of my own driveway. I sat there for several minutes. I'll have traffic backed up behind me just trying to get in my driveway. And y'all are talking about adding hundreds of cars a day for this development to that road. And then you're talking about adding thousands of cars a day. The other two developments that you're talking about, and they're all going to empty out on 900. I got to ask this question. Where's the thought process behind all that? And nobody's ever bothered doing a traffic study. And it's, you know, to me, that's ridiculous. The road needs to be widened into a 4-lane, and that S curve needs to be straightened out if you're going to be talking about this kind of traffic on that road, along with the other two developments that you're talking about. The traffic now is horrible. But I don't see anybody on this commission or anywhere else planning on widening that road or improving the traffic situation. The stoplight at 936, my Lord, that thing hardly ever changes. And I can tell nobody on this council lives on 900, because you would understand the problems that the people, not only that live on 900, but the side roads, the side subdivisions, the problems that we have getting in and out of our own places every day. So that's what my comment is. And you're probably not going to take any of it into consideration, but I really hope you do, because the traffic over there right now is ridiculous. And it comes from nothing but poor planning, not so much on the city, but on the county side. There's poor planning for that road. You know, we're talking about adding talking about putting a 6 or 7 story motel over there on the corner of the Costco Drive on the other side of 900, on the east side of 900. How many cars is that going to add? Now, come on, folks. There's got to be some place, somehow, sometime, that you've got to quit putting things on 900 East. It's just that simple. I know you're not going to take any of this into consideration, but I hope you do.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Ron Fraser, 8806 Prairie Trail, Avon. I wasn't aware of this, so I just wanted to make some comment as well. It's similar to what was just said, but I live, we only have one entrance and exit, and it's 900. And with the Costco, we're already getting, most of the traffic seems to be coming down 900 to go to the Costco. There's not any other, well, there is other options, but it seems to be the easiest way to get in. We are having traffic back up from those traffic lights through that intersection where the Costco is, up to, at times, our house, our road. And you can't turn right, which would be going south, which is towards that set of lights. If you want to get out, you've got to try to get between the cars and turn left going north on 900. And you cannot, because our road is lower than 900, you cannot see the traffic coming on. And I'm really worried there's going to be an accident there in those situations. There's times when I will drive out of my driveway, start driving up towards 900, see the traffic is parked across our road. I can see it's all just sitting there parked to go south, and I'll just turn around and get back. If I don't have an appointment or something like that, I'll just turn back around, go to my house, and do something else for a while until that traffic dissipates. I have been told that when the roundabout goes in, this will fix this. I do not believe it'll fix it. It'll just bring more traffic from those side roads onto 900, because now there's no four-way stop slowing the traffic, which is just going to make it back up through the roundabout and up past. So the gentleman that spoke before me, he's the other side of the S turn, which is just north of 900. And if you're on Prairie Trail trying to come out, as the traffic comes around, it's a bit of an optical illusion, but the traffic comes around, and before you know it, that traffic on that S turn is right at you. You think you've got more time than you actually have to get out. And it's a little bit dangerous the way that it works with that traffic coming south on that road. Because you look up and you think, oh yeah, and next minute it's on you. So I just wanted to make that comment that with these 300 odd extra car spaces, that equates to me to, well, people coming and going, it's going to be a lot more than 300. But already the traffic on 900 is congested, and there's been so many accidents at that set of lights and in that area. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak, please? Okay, we will close public comment this time. And I'll open up for deliberations by the commissions. I'm going to start because the gentleman did bring up that we did have a discussion about traffic study and asked it to be conducted on 900 from 36 to 200 north. Bill, can you give us an update on that?
So we didn't do a full-blown traffic study. The traffic study was done. The traffic study was done with the rezoning of the petition. So back about 3 years ago, we did a traffic study on the whole development. And then we did a traffic safety analysis on the portion from 36 all the way up to 200. And what we did as staff, under the direction of the Public Works Director, is drive it at different times and different days of the week, and try to identify those areas that were problematic from a traffic standpoint. And then he used that to make some decisions. And we did a smaller traffic study associated with the roundabout design. So we didn't go all the way to 200 for the roundabout design at Angelina Way, but we did do a sort of more localized traffic study around this general area to assist in the design of the proposed roundabout that we'll construct next year. So did we do a full-blown traffic study? No, we didn't do a full-blown traffic study. We did a safety analysis. A traffic study was done associated with the Harvest Landing commercial development. And we did do a safety analysis all the way from, we actually went to the Skillman lot south of 36 and then drove it all the way to 200. And then came back. We did that at several times a day. The only real time that we had was peak, was morning and evening peak with congestion. Most of the time there wasn't a lot of congestion on the road, but yeah, morning and evening peak, there was some congestion.
So with that then, you're talking about a roundabout there at
Angelina or Charles Nelson and 900.
What about widening of 900 and straightening out the S curve?
Well, the S curve is in the county's jurisdiction. So once you get to Prairie Trails, the jurisdiction shifts from the town to the county, and then once you get through the curve, the town picks it up again. So we don't have the authority in the S curve to do any improvements right there. As far as widening 900, it's not one. So we're concentrating on Dan Jones because Dan Jones is a higher classification of road. And that's a multi-year project. And we yearly do a sort of rack and stack of road improvement projects. We don't have anything on the books to widen 900. And the way widening projects happen, it's a decade. So if we want to do it in 2033, we would have to start right now. That's what we did with Dan Jones Road, which we're widening right now. So it's not something that we can't just, decide to widen it and then widen it. We have to program it. We have to put it on the Indianapolis Regional Transportation Improvement Plan. We then have to secure our match and get funding for it. And the Indianapolis MPO has to actually fund it so we can get federal funding for these sorts of things. It's not as high priority as some of our arterial streets.
What would it take with the county being in charge of the S curve area, to do the widening? So between the two parts that are in the town and the part that's in the county, what would it take right now to be able to do that?
Well, it would just be coordination. But if we're talking about a significant widening, I don't think the town would want to widen it out to 4 lanes. We're just now widening Dan Jones Road to 4 lanes. So, I mean, what we would do anyway on 900 is probably just increase some capacity and make certain areas safer. But it's a really, really expensive prospect, and we can't do it with the funding that we have. We would have to seek federal funding for something like
The
this.
setting funding aside, so I'm seeking information.
Yeah.
Do the drives that feed into 900 have the ingress egress lanes that we would look for nowadays?
All the modern developments do. So if you go up, that was one of the things that we noticed on 900, that where the most recent development has occurred, XL, decel lanes and those sorts of, and rights of way and pedestrian infrastructure has been installed. It's only the older developments along 900 where you have problems because the standards weren't there when those developments were built.
Okay. I'll stop for the moment, and any other commissioners have questions? Or other points?
That was going to be a comment that I have, is that Prairie Trail and that S curve is underneath the county's jurisdiction. So the question I have is, have you made contact with the county regarding your issues and your concerns?
Are you asking me that question now?
I'm just making a statement. You don't need to respond.
I've talked to Karen several times. Be right there in front of our house. Every time it rains, people run off the road and wiping out the signs that the county puts up there. And even the last flashing one for the curb sign they put up there, something came along the first time it rained after they put it up and wiped it out. People are constantly running off the road there. So for no other reason, I've been talking to the county about doing something, but all they've done so far is put up signs. Maybe somebody with a little more hold than I have can get something done within this curve.
But the issue is there's more people on 900 than there should be coming 36. They've made it, it's been made too easy for people to come in on 900. Even big trucks, semis have been on 900 to go into to Costco. And I would say that our traffic is similar to what's happening on Dan Jones, the amount of traffic we're getting. And the traffic study was done pre-Costco, which is irrelevant.
Thank you for that piece of information. So I'm going to follow up on that one too, because
No, it's not even close. Dan Jones has significantly more traffic than 900. It's not, it's literally not even close.
my question on this bill would be that, is there a way to limit semi-traffic on 900?
Is there a way? Sure, you do put a weight limit on it, but you wouldn't want to put a weight, you'd have to do that north of Costco because you wouldn't want to put a weight limit on it and stop semis from coming into the Costco development to deliver product.
But they don't have to come into
So,
900.
sir, thank you. Okay.
I can comment that I do remember the discussion about a traffic study. And at that time, there was a different proposal for a different a set of buildings other than this Village Place. It was for 120 units. And then there was another rental house development. And between the two, they crossed the threshold, and we had talked to them about potentially funding a traffic study. Those were withdrawn. So that's why that went away.
That's a good point. I mean, we're only talking about the one case right now, but we have another case before us that is going to have a similar discussion on it, I'm sure. And as we look at adding more traffic onto 900 with potential of, there could be another hotel going in there. Seems like something that we should be looking about and considering.
Oh, and we have. I mean, we've done some work, like the design of the roundabout and other sorts of things. But significant increases in the capacity of the road is, I mean, we can say, other than, let's discount funding, but that's how we can't discount funding with road construction because it's the most expensive capital improvements projects that we do.
Let me ask the question I had written before it came into tonight's meeting anyway, that in the staff report, it talked about additional ingress egress points for this development. Does what I'm saying is is that a boulevard, or it's not a boulevard entrance?
Pork chop.
It's a pork chop. It's right in, right out. we're trying to stop left turn movements from 900 at that location is what we're trying to do.
Does that satisfy what Public Works wants?
Public Works wants a full access, but that's part of this, Public Works is comfortable with this layout. However, they would prefer a full access point there, so to not overload the roundabout. But it's sort of a back and forth between us and them because we don't want to encourage left-hand turning movements at that location and back up traffic into the roundabout heading northbound.
So there's still work that needs to be done here then for this.
Yeah, we're about 90% done with that roundabout, or I'm sorry, that pork chop, that right in, right out. I think Public Works is comfortable keeping it a right in, right out.
I'm not comfortable moving something forward that doesn't have the complete work on it. And I've talked about that before. I'm not comfortable that we get materials at the meeting that I have to go through and hurry up and look at. I'm of the opinion that we would continue this to give us more time to get the complete design done and to make sure we have all the materials prior to coming into this meeting. That's my opinion as one commissioner.
Has there been any consideration, I don't want to say this, so don't, putting a stoplight there?
No.
Maybe a suggestion would be, as Mr. Guckenberger references, to continue this and to have our Public Works Director be present at the next meeting to discuss egress, ingress, and traffic flow.
Discussion. Bill, Jennifer, not put you on the spot, but just making sure any comments.
I do have a question in regards to when the roundabout is added. Is that going to completely shut down 900 or will it be open to some traffic?
I believe we're going to keep it open and there's going to be some times where we have to close it just to finish the circle, but I think we're going to try to do some of the construction there and leave the traffic open. It's still going to be a choke point because it's just going to make people, but I believe the intent is not to close 900 at this location, but to leave it open, do some of the work around it. And then when we have to close it for a brief amount of time to finish the roundabout.
Is there a timeline for the finished project? Like it'll take 9 months or 6 months or?
There is, I don't have that information though. I can get that information. Cause we were going to start it this year. We just ran out of time to get it started and get it done. So we pushed it to next year, but I can ask the Public Works Director that.
Seems like it was 60 days.
It's,
I think that was,
but I don't, I would have to ask the Public Works Director what the timing is on it. I don't have that information here.
The other question I have is that private drive on the bottom of that rendering, what is that? Where does that go? Is that on the west side of Costco, or is that?
Which private drive?
It says private drive. I mean, where are these road front? Yeah, where do they drop out?
Yeah, that's the private drive that's shared with Costco. There, that heads up to the development.
Does it go back into 900 or does it terminate in the property?
The private drive?
Yes.
I believe that private drive goes to 36 and terminates in Dr. Charles Nelson Drive. So that's canted. The north is to the left on that drawing.
So I think the private drive maybe come up right there where your laser was. Is that like Zaxby's right there and Cooper's Hall? And
No,
you can
this
turn left.
Harvest Landing Drive.
I think that's the main access into the Harvest Landing from 36.
Raising Cane and Swanson's.
This would be the four-way stop in the Harvest Landing subdivision here. Yeah, he's right. It's canted. We're looking east there.
Okay, for the record, I want to make sure I understand. The circle that you had on that is conceptual. That's what's planned to go in there.
Correct, yeah.
And that's Pearl's Nelson Drive that comes, and then that's the retention pond just to the north of that.
Mhm.
So the south, we've got Raising Cane on the corner,
Yep.
a new development, Swenson's, the Costco gas station. So that's all coming back this way.
Yep.
Okay. And then this road on the bottom of the drawing is going north, and it terminates at the development at the property that we're going to be discussing for a rezone here coming up.
That's correct, yes. Our drive comes through here.
May I make up one more copy?
If we come up to the microphone, please. And again, if you wouldn't mind stating your name and address, just for the record.
It's Raymond Albee, 506 North County Road, 900 East, Avon, Indiana. I'm looking at this situation here where right only goes to the right on the way out, only comes from, that's the north to the left, is it not?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so they have to be going southbound on 900 to be able to access this, or they can come in off of 36 onto that other road. But, you know, if you're going northbound and you're wanting in here, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to go down the road, turn around and come back?
You'll have to go through the roundabout to come in because it's a right in, right out at that pork chop, what they call it there.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, the thing up there at the top where it's right in and right out. So if you're going to come in off of 900 north, and let's say you're coming off of the roundabout and you're heading north, there's no access to this, is there?
That is correct.
So I have to agree with the county on that you need a full access there with a turn lane. And a turn lane is not that hard to put in. You abscond about 15 feet of the person's property across the road there and give you a spill out lane and a left turn lane. I mean, that's going to create so many more problems by people going down there and turning around and coming back. The only thing I see there is more accidents. Seriously. I mean, I got to go with the county on that one.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the additional comments on that. Thank you. Okay. So we have before us 2 waivers and a DPR. An idea of, have we had enough time really to digest, and do we need more information, or should we continue this? I'm open to either additional conversation or motion. Oh, yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick, but add a little bit of light to how this discussion has came about. Actually, the proposed layout that we had for this site didn't have that access at all. So some of this conversation kind of goes away of what that access looks like on County Road 900. It was a request from Public Works that it be there. So if it is something that requires further study, maybe something that I would ask you at least to consider whether it's possible or not, just to keep us moving forward a little bit, is to make it a condition to come back to approve any access. So to basically approve the rest of the development, to keep the process moving forward. And then if access is required on 900, at that point, I think we'd be willing to come back. Once that's kind of determined what the course of action is, but just in the spirit of being able to get this development off the ground this year, I think, something that we would ask if that's a possibility.
I appreciate that, and I apologize that you still have time because we had unregistered people who wanted to speak. You get time. If there's anything else that you would like to address.
I think that's really it. I know this access point's been a big sticking point. And that's, originally why we proposed removing it. altogether to keep traffic at what will be a nice roundabout that can handle a lot more traffic than this kind of side entrance here. And then just, it was explored originally as well, when Public Works first made the comment to make it full access. Unfortunately, with the right of way that exists on surrounding properties and the kind of lane shifts and tapers and widening that would need to occur, at this time, the right of way just doesn't exist to safely maneuver to add a turn lane, a left turn lane northbound. So this was kind of our intermediate solution to give that access that Public Works wanted,
What would it
within the
take?
right of way.
What would it take then to put in the left turn lane to acquire the right of way?
You would either need to acquire right of way from the property owners to the east and widen the whole road on both directions. And I think as well as property owners to the north would have to dedicate right of way, or right of way would have to be taken, whatever the process is, you'd have to gain additional right of way,
Had you
to the north.
explored, you looking into that as a developer here?
I don't think that the developer it's not their wish to have to take public right away from adjacent property owners.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Is there anything else that you would like to address? Make sure you get your time.
No, I think that's it. There was a tenant question. Building 2 will have a possible 5 tenants, and building 1 will have a possible of 9, but it's just kind of, there could be less if one tenant, they get a lease that's wants a larger space. So that's the maximum possible, but could be less. But that's it.
Thank you. Okay. Apologies to the commission. I missed that as part of our process. So with that, any additional comments or questions?
Well, I because of the type of project we have here and because of the issue that we have is traffic flow. I mean, I look at the waivers and I think instead of trying to do piece of at a time, I would suggest that we continue this because we have a new concept that shows egress ingress onto 900. Originally, when we got it, it didn't show it. There's confusion between the developer doesn't believe we need it or hadn't provided it, and our Public Works wants us to have it. And we are making changes on the roundabout. There's a lot of things happening there, and I think we need answers before we can take action. So I would propose that we continue DPR 23-14 Harvest Landing Lot 2.
I'll second.
Is that a motion? I'll make sure you're making a motion
I make a motion.
and continue it to,
We
is
can-
this I'd look for staff to help on this continuation to the next meeting.
November 27th, 2020.
Need to amend your motion.
I'll amend my motion that we continue DPR 23-14 Harvest Landing Lot 2 to the November 27th Plan Commission meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a roll call vote, please.
Paul Guckenberger,
4.
Bill Reed,
4.
Dave Kaufman,
4.
Jennifer Spencer,
Or
Greg Citizen.
4.
Motion carries. It's continued.
Well, one other thing too, if you would, Bill, could we have Mr. Moore be part of that meeting too? Thank you.
Everybody good, or would you like a 5-minute break? Okay.
Good.
We will move on then to ZA 2304.
This is a request for approval of a zoning amendment to change the zoning of a property from R2 That should say R3. To allow for the development of a detached single-family residential subdivision consisting of a maximum of 18 lots. So again, that should say R3 there. Here's a property in question. It is the Avon Christian Church property here. And they wish to sell off a portion of their property to allow for this subdivision. As I said, it's to rezone it from R2 to R3 to allow for a maximum of 18 lots. The future land use cluster map as part of the comprehensive plan doesn't have an overt recommendation for this lot. It's silent on it, but in these cases, the comprehensive plan directs us to assume that the underlying zoning is the recommended zoning designation. So therefore, we find this request to be consistent with the recommendation of the comprehensive plan. Ultimately, the proposal is still a single-family subdivision and would just be upzoned by one. Here's the concept plan here. It's along County Road 100 South here, just east of the Hickory Elementary School. 18 lots is a single cul-de-sac there at the end. The petitioners are seeking this rezone to accommodate lots that are similar in size to the neighboring Millstone residential subdivision located to the east. The lot sizes within Millstone subdivision are as small as 0.21 acres, which would not be permitted in the R2 zoning district, which they currently are zoned, so they're legally established non-conforming at the moment. The R2 zoning district has a minimum lot size of 12,500 square feet or roughly 0.287 acres. So in order for the petitioner to develop a subdivision with similar lot sizes, they would need to upzone it to R3. So we find that the proposed use is compatible with the abutting school and church uses. It's a simple, small density or small amount of lots here. Just quickly about the roadway there, the 2018 thoroughfare plan designates East 100 South as a secondary arterial thoroughfare. Secondary arterial streets are typically 120 feet of right-of-way, so this would result in the dedication of a 60-foot half right-of-way. Public Works has expressed concern about the proposed access along 100 South regarding its proximity to neighboring or to abutting intersections there, drives. And the petitioner is actively working with Public Works to design a solution, and Public Works is open to hearing their proposed solutions to this, of which they have several. But ultimately, that's a platting standard that'll be further reviewed as part of the plat process, and does not preclude the approval of this rezoning request. Really all I have for you. The petitioner will be able to speak more on this. We do recommend that the Plan Commission forward a favorable recommendation to the Town Council subject to the following commitments. Now, R3 includes various types of uses permitted in that zoning district. And as the petitioner has expressed, they are just seeking this rezone to allow for slightly denser housing or slightly denser lots there. So we have excluded all of the uses that are not included in a typical R2 zoning district as part of this first condition here. That's duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, bungalow courts, townhouses, apartment buildings, live-work dwellings, assisted living facilities, fraternity, sorority, and student housing, and group residential facilities and nursing homes are all prohibited as part of, is what we recommend as part of this petition. And additionally, a 60-foot half right-of-way shall be dedicated along the entirety of the subject property. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions for staff?
One question, if the property remained in R2, how many homes could they put on it?
I don't have the exact number for that.
Maximum density, the R2 zoning district is 3 units an acre. If you, so you're looking at probably around 15 or 16.
15 or 16.
Yeah. Now, if they go to the enhanced architectural standards, they could go up to 4 units an acre, and then you're looking at probably 2021. But I think they're going to the R3 standards so they could meet the base architectural standards, but just get about 2 or 3 more units on the site.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, I'll ask the petitioner to come forward. You'd state your name and address, record, please.
Thank you. My name is Chris Barnett with Habitat for Humanity of Greater Indianapolis at 3135 North Meridian Street and in Indianapolis. We have a PowerPoint loaded. Oh. I'm going to ask your indulgence and offer, Mr. Zusin has seen this before. I'm going to offer the introduction to Habitat for Humanity that I gave the town council last week, because this is our first attempt to build in Avon, and we think it's pretty important that you understand who we are and what we do. Greater Indy Habitat is the local affiliate of a worldwide ecumenical Christian organization. And locally, you can see from the slide that we're experienced home builders. We believe that we build good quality houses to an Energy Star standard, although we don't have them certified because that costs a little extra money, and we're trying to build affordable housing. And we sell our houses to first-time home buyers. We serve 4 counties in the metropolitan area, including Hamilton, Hancock, Marion, and Hendricks counties. Our home buyers go through a process. They apply to us. They choose to partner. They go through hours and hours of homeowner education in our classroom. They provide sweat equity totaling 200 hours on other folks' homes and their own. We provide an affordable mortgage to them, which is part of how we make homes affordable. And the homeowner then has the privilege, like all the rest of us, of paying a mortgage for 30 years. I don't know that I need to tell you about the need for affordable housing in suburban counties. There are plenty of jobs here that pay at or below the local median income, but there are not plenty of houses that folks can afford. The affordability gap is pretty large. The last time I checked the real estate listings in Avon, which was last week, I couldn't find a house under $240,000 listed. And as you can see, the median is actually closer to $340,000. And folks that have a good middle-class income can only afford less than $200,000 for a home. So there's plenty of need in the community. Whoops. As I showed you, the location is in between a subdivision of similar layout to what we propose and the Hickory School on 100 South. And conceptually, this is oriented with north to the top to answer one of Mr. Zusin's questions of Ian. While the zoning standards require lot sizes and configurations, we also have to take into account zoning or roadway and drainage standards. And so it's not usually practical to say yes, because you have 5 acres at 4 units per acre allowed, that you're actually going to build 20 homes on it. We started at 18, and as we have discussed the roadway access and drainage requirements, we're down to 17 or 16 as it sits, but that presumes a certain lot width, which we could not meet in the R2 standard. So that's part of the other reasoning behind asking for R3. I have one more pretty picture to show you, and this is an example of what we do and can build. This is a home in Franklin Township. I'm aware after reviewing the UDO standards that it doesn't fully meet them, but we believe that with some modification, we can build a home that meets the base UDO standards and is affordable and fits in Avon. So that's about us and about what we do. And I'd be happy to answer any questions for me that you might have.
Are there any questions for the petitioner?
I would also like to let you know that the room is full of folks who are interested in this case. We have a number of folks from the Avon Christian Church. I'd like to have you stand tonight. These are folks in Avon who invited Habitat to come talk to them about buying their land.
Thank you.
And we also have a longtime volunteer for Habitat in the audience, and I'm hoping that he might have a word to say in support.
All right, thank you very much then. If there's no questions then for the petitioner, we'll open it up to public comment. Everybody sign up to speak.
Firstly, I'd like to say there are several letters of support that were included on your table as well. But we have an Ed Abbott.
Again, if you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Ed Abbott. I live at 7895 Amsterdam Court over by the high school. I am a long-term volunteer with Habitat. I go out and I've been on probably 100 to 150 of their houses. They built a very quality house, not necessarily fancy, but definitely will fit into any neighborhood I've seen around where they're talking about. As he said, they're low cost, affordable. They do that through the use of volunteers. They get donations from companies, people like you and I. They also, people will donate materials, labor, sometimes, and then they also have, excuse me, what they call panel builds, which is a way to fundraise. What else? The other thing that we've seen with most Habitat houses that are built is the family that moves into it has probably never, ever had a house before. They've been a renter, something like that. Tends to bring a stability to the family, also digs some really deep roots into the community. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is everybody else signed up to speak?
No one else has signed up.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak? Come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Bob Culler, 1483 Laurel Oak Laurel Oak Drive, Avon, Indiana. What I'd like to find out, request the commission ask the petitioner, is what happens whenever the original owner decides to sell a house and change of hands, if you will, on the ownership of the home. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward and speak? Okay, with that, then we'll close public comment, and Mr. Barnett, you get the opportunity to rebut or provide additional information, and I think you heard the question there.
I heard the question. I have no rebuttal to that. In fact, part of our negotiation with the church has been to provide more permanent affordability with these homes so that when the initial homeowner chooses to sell, that we are able to recycle that home to another Habitat home buyer, another first-time home buyer. We can do that because we are the people that carry the mortgage on the property. So while we have the lien, we can do that. We are considering how we can strengthen that language in the sales contract so that, in fact, we have a right of first refusal whether or not we have a mortgage. So it's our intention to try and provide longer term affordability than just the first homeowner here.
So make sure I understood that right then, that when the homeowner looks to sell, you buy back the home and make it available to the next.
To the next Habitat trained home buyer. And we then, if it needs a refresh, we do that. You know, if the appliances are shot or if it needs some new carpet or a new piece of new floor or a coat of paint, we do that too, so that somebody is getting a newly rehabilitated home.
All right. Anything else?
Nothing more on that topic. Thank you.
Thank you. So as Ian pointed out, we did have several letters here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters in support of this development. And there is 1 letter that is against it, indicating that the lot size does not allow for that many homes to be built there. Asking for the developer to consider taking this development elsewhere, I'm assuming to get more homes. Is there anything, Ian, I'd ask that should introduce anything else related to the letters? Is that adequate?
Yep, that is adequate.
All right.
So again, to clarify that statement then from that letter, you had said earlier in R2, we could put 15 to 16 homes on that property. The way it sits today, they wouldn't even be sitting here right now. And they're requesting an R3 just because of the lot width. And we started, or it sounds like they started at 18 homes, and due to some traffic flow and road cuts and stuff, I heard 16 to 17 might be the number. So really, it's not a matter of we're creating a higher density here than an R2 zoning to an R3. Is that correct?
Basically, yes.
Thank you. There were a couple of comments in here regarding a dedicated left lane into this neighborhood. Are there any other traffic road cuts issues that we need to be aware of? I know that I had the opportunity to hear this presentation last week at a council meeting, and one of the comments was about changing the entry from the existing turn lane into the church property to maybe incorporate it, if you want to put that slide back up the Angel of the development. Has there been any discussion about that we need to be aware of?
Not that planning is aware of. As far as planning is aware, there were issues regarding the proximity of the nearby drives on the 100 and the desire to line up the ingress egress here with the ingress egress across the street. Last I heard, the Public Works Department was okay hearing justified revisions from the petitioner from a traffic engineer. As far as how far those conversations have gone, I'm not sure, but the petitioner may be able to shed more light on that.
Well, I know their existing driveway ties in to Crossroads, which is fine, but then there are also other single-family homes that have road cuts on 100 South as well. And I think where this is coming into play is probably almost the decel lane, then that goes into the school. So, I mean, I think you have right of way there. It's just a matter of trying to either keep both of those entries there, the existing one and this one, or working with it. But long story short, Avon needs affordable and attainable housing. And I think Habitat is going to be able to provide us that at this point in time.
I'll make sure that for the record, after having read the staff report and the determination of the criterion, I would agree with staff that the criterion, as they've outlined in their report, is met. Is there any other discussion? And if not, would somebody like to make a motion? And depending on the type of motion you make, I'm going to ask that you read into the record what's been prepared as sample language.
I'll do it. I move that we forward ZA 2304 Avon Christian Church subdivision rezone, a request for approval of a zoning map amendment to rezone 11.28 acres from R2 to R3 to the town council with a favorable recommendation subject to the following conditions. Dwellings duplex, dwellings triplex and fourplex, dwellings bungalow court, dwellings townhouse, dwellings apartment buildings small, live work dwelling, assisted living facilities, fraternity, sorority, or student housing, group residential facility, nursing homes, hospice shall be prohibited uses, and a 60-foot half right-of-way shall be dedicated along the entirety of the subject property.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Paul Guckenberger,
4.
Bill Reed,
4.
Dave Kaufman,
Or
Jennifer Spencer,
4.
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Motion carries.
Hey. Thank you. We will move on to ZA 2305.
ZA 2305, this is a request for a zone map amendment to change the zoning of the property from R2 mixed residential district to R4 multifamily residential district to allow the development of an attached single-family residential development consisting of a maximum of 80 dwelling units. There is some history on this property. Like I missed one. There's the, they're out of order. There is some history on this property. It was annexed in 2003. It was zoning designation of R2, single family residential zoning classification. Back in 2022, Village Place Townhomes, the first attempt on this one was filed, and that went through the process. Ultimately, that request was withdrawn. Originally, the request was 110 two-story townhome units. After that particular one, then Oak Grove's preliminary plat was filed with the body. That was earlier this year, 2302. And that was a request for a major subdivision primary plat utilizing the enhanced architectural standards to develop a single-family residential community on this property of about 34 lots. So it became just slightly over 3 units, 3 units an acre at that time. The property owner did get that was approved. The Plan Commission did approve it, and the petitioner subsequently walked away from the project. And I think the petitioner in that particular case had a number of cases in the Indianapolis region, and they sort of walked away from all of them at that time. And then this is essentially an amendment to that original Village Place townhomes. It does reduce the density. So we went from about 110 earlier this year to 80 on this particular case. This is the location just north of the Costco. You've heard Lot 2 earlier today, which is this area right in here. This is a Costco development. Satori Point Plan Unit Development has Hendricks Regional Health and the YMCA in it. A single-family residential subdivision, and then street frontage, single-family residential, old like post-war ranches in this general area. Properties you see over here, this is in the county's jurisdiction. Anything that's got a color on it is in Avon's jurisdiction. There was some discussion earlier today about a development in this particular area right here. And the commission is right I think right about here and down below. That area is in the town and it's zoned C2. Originally, it was going to be for a hotel development, but the petitioner in that particular case has not exercised their option to purchase these properties. So right now, we're sure if that hotel would ever be developed at that location right there. So as you said, as you heard, this is a request to go from R2 to R4 to build a townhome development, which would consist of a maximum of right around 80 dwelling units. There's a conceptual plan that was provided with this one indicating 80 two-story front-loaded townhomes on the 11 acres. That's equating roughly to 7.27 units an acre, which is higher than the 1.5 units an acre to the subdivision to the north, but the property is surrounded by commercial on the east and south, on the west and south of this property, and then single family to the east and north. Now, the future land use cluster map on this particular subdivision or this particular property recommends townhome development, recommends commercial development here. And so the proposal here, now historically this property has been a religious use. The religious use was sold at some point in the past, and the original owner of the religious use, religious use to the north of this property, sectioned off that L-shaped piece of property, sold off the religious use to another user, and then retained the existing L-shaped piece of property for sale. When you're looking at this, you have single family to the north and you have heavy commercial to the south. And so what we would argue is that you need some sort of transitional use between those two. I wasn't a big fan of the single family residential development that was proposed. However, the request was consistent with the ordinance. I wasn't a fan of it because you normally don't want to transition heavy commercial by single family residential. You don't want to put single family residential abutting right up against commercial. You want to layer densities through a site so that you have an adequate transition to it. The staff's position on this particular case is at 7.27 units an acre. That is a pretty decent transition between the heavy commercial development to the south. While a medium density townhome development would provide that adequate transition in the staff's opinion, it is likely not the right location for a denser apartment community, which would be permitted by the R4 zoning or the R4 zoning. And so the staff is proposing use restrictions by excluding the denser multifamily that could be constructed in the R4 district by commitment. Now, one of the things here, and this is really a platting concern, not necessarily a zoning concern, but it did come up originally on the 110 unit request, and that is the second means of ingress and egress. And so by the subdivision control ordinance, subdivisions with 50 to 200 lots or dwelling units have to have at least 2 street accesses onto appropriate perimeter streets. However, this development would only have 1 access to a public street. Now, if you put 2 accesses on the same public street, they have to be separated by 1,200 feet. So it's impossible for this particular piece of this particular piece of property to gain access to the perimeter street system in a manner consistent with the subdivision control ordinance. And so when this comes through for subdivision approval, should the rezoning get approved, they will have to request a waiver of that standard. The petitioner has proposed a emergency ingress egress easement through the Costco lot so that public safety agencies can get access to this property if the main entrance is blocked for some reason. This has been reviewed by us, by the Avon Fire Department, and they are fine with this arrangement, the arrangement of having a main access off of 900 and a secondary access through the Costco lot for access by police and fire and ambulance services. They have suggested that this be done with these 4 conditions, and those 4 conditions would be imposed upon a subdivision request in the future should the rezoning be approved. The 2018 thoroughfare plan indicates the County Road 900 East is a collector, a major collector, and a collector street has about 150 feet of right-of-way that's required. That would equate to a dedication of a 50-foot half, and associated with this particular development, should the rezoning be approved, that 50-foot half would be dedicated at the time of platting. And staff is requesting one other thing that's sort of atypical. The trail and pedestrian master plan would require a trail be constructed along 800 when the site is developed, should the rezoning be approved. What we have requested is that an east-west trail be constructed through the development, and that east-west trail then subsequently connects through the Satori Point Plan Unit development to the interior trail system of the Satori Point PUD. This is the conceptual plan, just to give you an idea. Main Street comes in through here, comes around this box right here. There's the emergency ingress and egress right here. Stormwater facilities at this location right here, and a little playground located right here. We do recommend that the Plan Commission forward a favorable recommendation to the Town Council. We do believe that this meets the requirements or the statutory guidelines for a rezoning request. We do ask that the Commission forward this with a prohibition on dwellings, apartment buildings small, and dwellings, apartment building large. That the required architectural standards to be used will be the single-family detached dwelling standards in the ordinance as required by the Unified Development Ordinance. And the reason this commitment is on there, I didn't talk about it in my case in point, but townhomes are in the nebulous area. They're not really multifamily, but they're not really detached single family. The standards in the ordinance specify detached single family. And so this is probably something we'll capture with our UDO amendment, but currently the UDO doesn't have any overt architectural standards for attached single family. And so we're asking that the detached single family standards be used as the required architectural standards for a townhome development. And then finally, an 8-foot asphalt trail be constructed through the development east-west, connecting the trail along 900 East with the trail system in the Satori Point Plan Unit development. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for staff?
Bill, regarding the trail, it says 8 feet, and also in the write-up, I saw another place where it was 10 feet.
So the trail master plan has a range, and it's between 8 and it is between 8 and 10, what the trail master plan specifies. When the single family residential subdivision came through earlier this year, we made the same request from them, and they agreed to do it. But they were having trouble fitting an 8-foot path into the right-of-way that they had back to the property. And so what we agreed to back then with them was to narrow that down to 6 feet, to make it a concrete path, and to change the color of the concrete path, so that the big concern is if you're going down 900 and you're running on the trail or you're walking on the trail, we want to make sure people understand that they have a way to get to the Satori Point Plan Unit development loop through this development through a public trail system. So we want to make sure that it's clear that there's a public trail that anybody can go and use to get to the PUD. So during the platting of the property is when we'd secure, the details on this particular one. We just want to make sure that we can get at least an 8-foot path, and that the petitioner can incorporate that into their design as they go forward through the platting process. So that's the reason for the deviation.
Have we acquired all the necessary right-of-way?
Right-of-way on this one would be dedicated. Now, right-of-way would be dedicated with a plat, a 50-foot half on the western. Across the street, there's a line of single-family houses that have been there for decades, and those are all in the county. And their legal descriptions more than likely go to the center of the road. So right of way is probably prescriptive at that location. Depending on how the county defines prescriptive right of way, it could be the pavement, or it could be a certain area like a drainage way a couple feet off the pavement. But no, we wouldn't have right of way across the street, which is part of the problem with one of the previous petitions, Lot 2, trying to fit a bunch of improvements on there without having to acquire right of way across the street.
Can you put that picture back up there then that does show the homes?
This one right here?
No, the homes that are on 900 that are on the east side.
Right here?
Yes, so that's where you're going to have your right-of-way issues, what you're saying.
Right, the right-of-way issues, and like I said, the county's jurisdiction ends right about here. So everything north of here is within the county's jurisdiction. And so we would have to acquire right-of-way, or someone would have to acquire right-of-way at this location right in through here to build capacity into this roadway system at this location.
So to the best of your knowledge, has the petitioner had conversation with the county yet?
Not to the best of my knowledge. I mean, it's kind of early in the process to have those discussions.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, then I'll ask the petitioner to come forward and please state your name and address for the record.
Sitting next to you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Moore. My address is 50 South Meridian Street, Suite 700, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46204. Here tonight on behalf of Lennar Homes. Also with me here, I have Tony Bagato with Lennar Homes here in the crowd who can answer any questions that may arise. Bill did a great job of laying out the basics in the area. Are we here? I'll walk through it again. This site is a narrow L-shaped parcel located just north of the Costco, and then also the development you just heard earlier tonight for the Harvest Landing Lot 2. It has narrow frontage on 900 East, which makes it a little challenging as far as development goes. If you compare this to what you heard earlier in the for the platting, that site was rectangular in shape with two frontages on roads. Our site here, it's more of an L shape with only that one possible access point out onto 900E. The site's approximately 11 acres, and it's an infill site surrounded by development on all sides. Currently, the site is zoned R2. We are requesting to rezone the site to R4 to permit the development of a maximum of 80 townhomes. And when we talk about the zoning for townhomes, townhomes are permitted in R3, they're permitted in R4, they're not permitted in R2. So we zone that up to the requested classification. When we look at R3, R3 would allow 4 units per acre. R4 would allow 10 units per acre. We're roughly right at about 7 units per acre. So really we're almost R3 plus here. We don't get up to that R4 zoning because we've agreed to cap the number of units at 80 townhomes. Here's the most current concept plan, and it differs a little bit from what's in your packet. I'll point that out. Right here, we heard some comments from the folks in Prairie Manor about the buffer here. Your plan that's in your packet shows that at 25 feet. That's now been expanded to 50 feet. And we're going to maintain all those trees along there to the north. But so that right there has widened from 25 to 50 feet. That's the one difference that you see that what you have in your packet. As mentioned, we're proposing 80 townhomes. Townhomes will be in buildings that'll have runs from 4 to 6 units in each of the buildings. Uh, We'll have the trail, as Bill mentioned, trail along 900, and then we'll have a trail also a little along the south of the property and connect into Satari Point. And we, as you'll see here in a minute, do agree with that being 8 foot wide. This project does contain, since we've added here, I'll show you what we changed. From the prior plan that was here last year, started at 110 units, ended at 109 units. This is the proposed plan we have today. You'll see the main difference is the elimination of these units here, and instead we've added this park area. This has increased the open space on this project to about 18%. R4 would require 12%, so we have greater open space than what is required under an R4. There was talk earlier tonight about a traffic study, and this development does not trigger the requirement for a traffic study. However, Lennar has agreed to have one performed. That is in the works. That'll be done if we're able to get a favorable recommendation here before it gets to the town council. But that traffic study has been put in the works. That was requested by the town council at the introductory hearing earlier this month. So Lennar is moving forward with that. Other changes from the prior plan, there are some parking nodes that are off of the main area here that you'll see right there and right there. Those have been added, as well as that park and playground equipment there. And then obviously the less units going from what was 110, then 109 down to 80 units. Mentioned the buffer to the north. Here's the Prairie Manor subdivision. You can see we have deep lots here. There's an existing tree line here. This is a picture taken from the YMCA. You can see how heavily wooded that is. There's the church that would be directly to the east of this development. Townhomes would be here, as you can see, fully screened from any of the residences in Prairie Manor. And that tree line will be maintained as part of this development and that 50-foot buffer that we discussed. Townhomes will be 2 to 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, average 1,700 to 1,800 square feet, or be between 1,700 and 1,800 square feet. They'll be priced in the low to the mid $300,000 for the townhome. Lennar has agreed to the staff's request that the townhomes comply with the architectural standards of single-family detached dwellings in the UDO. These townhomes are maintenance-free exterior. The exterior will be not owners of the townhomes. There'll be no short-term rentals, no Airbnb, no VRBO. Leases must be at least 30 days in length. Looking to start construction, if we're able to get approval sometime in 2024, looking at first homeowners moving in late 2024 or early 2025. Another rendering here, the typical 4-unit townhome building. Once again, this will meet the architectural requirements that have been requested by staff for the townhomes. As I mentioned earlier, we added this park area here. That was one of the comments came up earlier about having more of a park amenity. And so this is one of the designs here. We'll work with staff on this. There's actually 3 different designs for park equipment and layout, and we'll work with staff and meet whatever the staff would like us to do there within that interior area. And then here's that 8-foot wide path that we've agreed to put in to connect the path here to 900 and to Satari Point. There was discussion about access points. As we pointed out, site is unique in that it is this L shape, limited width here on 900E. So what we propose is to have a boulevard entrance here into the subdivision. And then we have this proposed emergency access drive. Costco has been open and receptive to us having this access drive there that would be reserved for emergency vehicles. And as we'll see here in a minute, it'll have a knock box on it reserved for fire and rescue in case that is needed to get into the subdivision in the case of an emergency. Excerpts from the staff report about the proposed entrance. Talks about the compromise was reached by the petitioner after conferring with the Avon Fire Department. The Avon Fire Department did make 4 requests of Lennar. Proper signage required, identifying the boundaries of the fire access lane. We agreed to that. Drive must be at least 20 feet wide and able to support 80,000 pounds. We've agreed to that. Gate would be required to have a Knox pad on it to allow for emergency access. We agreed to that. Then lastly, there would need to be some agreement on who is responsible for and how the emergency access drive would be maintained, including during the winter, as it would be required to be plowed and maintained for use at all times. And we'll agree that we will work that out between us and Costco. There was some discussion about the comprehensive plan. This is the current comprehensive plan. Right here is the northern point of Costco and what is the future Harvest Ridge Lot 2 development, leaving this site here sort of sandwiched in between the Costco and the church and the single-family residential to the north. So when this was adopted in 2017, this was going to be area retail, included this site just to the north, specialty housing. But as you can see how this is developed, the area retail has come up here as heavy commercial to this line here, and it's squeezed this site down to the point where area retail no longer makes sense for the site. If we're looking at this today, really the specialty housing suggestion to the north really would come down into this site, given the way this has developed since 2017 with the Costco and that retail development there. It no longer lends itself to area retail, just given that L configuration and the access there off of 900E. And I think staff recognizes that in its comments as to why this makes sense for transitional use between the heavy commercial to the south, the single family residential to the north. This transitions from that very nicely at the site at a reasonable density. More excerpts from the staff report. There's 5 criteria to consider when considering a rezoning application. 1, the comprehensive plan is adopted and amended from time to time. Staff finds that a higher density residential use may serve as a more effective and preferable land use buffer between the high intensity commercial uses to the south and the lower intensity estate homes to the north. 2, the current conditions and the character of the current structures and uses in each district. Properties to the south are overwhelming commercial in nature. Properties to the north and east are predominantly residential. Single-family attached residences could serve as an effective transitional use between these 2 contrasting uses/districts. 3rd criterion, the most desirable use for which the land in each zoning district is adapted. Staff finds the proposed use for the subject site to be a favorable and desirable when considering the location and configuration of the property. Criterion 4, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. Staff believes this proposal would serve as a more preferable use abutting Prairie Manor subdivision to the north than the area retail land use. And this would serve to conserve property values and nearby properties and throughout the jurisdiction. And then criterion 5, responsible development and growth. This request would develop a historically vacant infill lot with an effective transitional use. It is consistent with the specialty housing designation located immediately north of the subject site. Staff recommends that the Plan Commission forward a favorable recommendation to the Town Council, subject to the following commitments. I won't read those again. Bill read those during his presentation, but I will say we do agree to all 3 of those commitments requested by the staff. So in summary, we've got an approximately 11-acre infill site. We're proposing 80 townhomes. It's reduced from 109 from last year's proposal. This is an appropriate transitional use for an infill site. We will meet the architectural standards of single-family detached dwellings per the Avon UDO. Townhomes will be 2 to 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and approximately 1,700 to 1,800 square feet. Estimated price is low to mid 300,000s. The petitioner agrees to planning staff's requested commitments, and the planning staff recommends a favorable recommendation. And with that, we would respectfully request a favorable recommendation to the town council, and we are very happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the petitioner?
You mentioned that you were planning on funding a traffic study.
Yes, sir.
Is that something that could be a commitment? How would that normally work?
I think the petitioner indicated that he was going to have the traffic study completed before the council hears the case. I think that's what he said.
It came up during the council introductory hearing, and we said at that point we would have it done.
Yeah. We wouldn't necessarily need a commitment for something that's going to be achieved before the development is approved. If you didn't know what I'm saying, because what we would normally do is have commitments on things that we either are going to require post-development or contemporaneous with the development, or long-term things that we want to have a enforcement remedy long-term. And in this particular case, petitioner indicated that they're going to provide the traffic study prior to the council taking action on it. So there probably isn't any need to have a commitment on that.
Okay. Out of curiosity, what part of 900 would you study?
I think we'll work with the staff on that. We'll be using A&F Engineering as who we've contacted. And my suspicion is you're going to want from Rockville Road all the way up to at least 100. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's not in progress yet. You're still working on getting something set up.
Yeah, we've turned them loose to do the traffic, but there's not been counts done at this point, no.
But Dave, you could, the staff will certify your findings and recommendations. And so if this is an important issue, although I agree with Bill that it wouldn't really take the form of a commitment, you could state in your motion, if you were making a favorable recommendation, that favorable recommendation is subject to the understanding that the petitioner will be submitting a traffic analysis or traffic study to the town and will work out any traffic issues with town public works. That's what I'm sure the petitioner intends to do, but it captures that, and that's your speaking to the town council. Your certification is a great way to do that. And so if you made a motion with that kind of language, then the town council would know what you guys were thinking. Not exactly a commitment or a condition, it's just that way. If you include that in your motion, then it would be a red flag to them to know what the status of that traffic study is.
And we certainly agree to that.
Thank you.
You'd brought up about keeping the landscape buffer as part of that development. So would you then agree to making that a commitment that you would keep that landscape buffer?
I think we're okay with that. Yeah. Well, Tony speak to that.
Tony Bagato with Lennar Homes, 11555 North Meridian Street 400. We would make that commitment. We usually like to have the ability, though, if there's an easement conflict, we may need to remove something. We can replace them outside of the easement, but all intentions is to keep it and not to touch it. But there is an easement with some utilities there to the north that we would just have to make sure we can work around and work with. But other than that, we would propose that we can live with that commitment, just with a caveat that utilities can be worked in that area if needed.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for the petitioner?
I understand this isn't a final plat, but how much wiggle room do you have? Because it looks like some of your driveways are backing up into the boulevard entrance.
You're correct. It is a conceptual plan, but I'll let Tony speak to that. Hear that question.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we would look at the platting. If we have to, we could shift room around. The minimum distance required between buildings and the zoning is only 10 feet, and we're showing 15 feet. So we could push the buildings closer. I mean, I think fire likes them further apart, but if we need to get further away, I don't know off the top of my head, or Bill, is there a UDO requirement for distance of driveway from an entrance? So if there's something in the subdivision control ordinance, we would make sure that complies with the plat, and we have room to adjust that if needed.
Okay. Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you.
Thank
We're going to
you.
open up for public comment. And there is anyone signed up for public comment?
Ron Frazier?
Good.
Okay. Tim Pettigrew?
And name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name's Tim Pettigrew. I live at 8854 Prairie Trail, and you have a handout in front of you. Looks like that. So out of this presentation, the quick takeaway: 1, town of Avon deserves better. 2, increased traffic safety issues on 900 East. This is going to complicate it, make it worse. Devaluation of Prairie Manor homes. And item number 4, 65 residents are opposed to this project. I also just received an additional 20 signatures of neighbors along Angelina Way and around the area that are also opposed to this. So that brings the number to 85 signatures. Changes to the area since the June 27th, 2022 planning meeting, when it was proposed 110 townhomes. The residents talked about it was a traffic problem on 900 then. Since then, we've added 10 additional businesses for a total of 33,000 square feet. We have future businesses planning. Harvest Landing Lot 2, we talked about it and the problems the traffic's going to happen there. Also Lot 4, BB Bop Asian Food, 7,000 square feet. And then Sapori Point Satori Shops is going in for an additional 13,000. That takes the total up to about 80,000 square feet of new businesses coming in. And again, more problems for 900 East and the residents that live along there. Future housing, Lennar proposed their 80 townhomes. Long-term hotel stay, Angelina Way and 900 East. That's a possibility coming in, 119 units. And also we've been fighting moving in houses in between Prairie Manor and Carolina Commons, and that last proposal was 40 houses. So you're talking an additional 239 residents that's going in, that's coming and going on 900 East. So again, all these projects are traffic related issues. If you look on site, according to Harvest Landing website realtor Equivus, Equivus is the stating that there's 2.2 million visits a year. That's 2.2 coming, 2.2 going, 4.4 million. And that is on the website advertising for these buildings going in. So according to the Avon Police Department dispatch log on 900 East and 36 between the year 2022 and 2023, we had a 71.4% increase in traffic accidents. In 900 East and Angelina Way, we've had 165% traffic increases. So I've also asked for the information for 900 East and Dr. Charles Nelson Way, because they could have been entered there, and I have not received that information. I'm still waiting for that. If you look at the 5 criteria number 2, devaluation of Prairie Manor homes. You look at the density is 1.1 per acre of Prairie Manor. You look at the density of the townhomes, 7.3 per acre. There's an insufficient green zone between the proposed townhomes and Prairie Manor. You look at criteria 3, most desirable use. We look at what was proposed that went behind Rural King. There was a proposal back there. And again, according to the Planning Commission, a sort of office suites development is what was the best for the transition. Single family resident homes are not typically considered traditional land use. Multifamily are also bad because of the high spike of the density of the homes. Criteria 4, if you look at the conservation of property values through the jurisdiction, You've got the devaluation Prairie Manor homes. If you look at Zillow, the average price for Prairie Manor homes is just shy of $540,000 per home. You look at what's going in, the petitioner says it's going to be low to mid 300s. However, if you look at Camden townhomes, the prices are $200,000. You look at square footage of the homes. Prairie Manor has just shy of 5,000 square feet per home based upon the Hendricks County listings. And the square footage for the townhomes is 1,700 to 1,800. Again, the density, 7 times more dense, which is unacceptable. Criterion 5, responsible growth and development. We've already talked about the problems on 900 East traffic, and it affects all of us who live up and down that street. So we've got the increased number of accidents, school bus loading and unloading, safety difficulties on 900 East, fire department, ambulance, police emergency. We have road blockage. So they can't get through. The police talked about giving special training to their officers to assist in getting vehicles through. We also have the inability to access 900 East. So for all the residents along that area. The proposed traffic circle at the intersection 900 East, Angelina Way and Charles Nelson Drive only improves that intersection, and that's looks like it's going to be debatable. But the residents to the north, it does not help us at all. This does not contribute to responsible growth and development. If you look at Lennar Corporation and their Upward America venture, they teamed with a company called Castor Bridge Partners. Castor Bridge, according to the CEO of Lennar, their Upward America venture is ESG driven and home building to make high quality homes available for sale, but also for rent. So I ask you, are these townhomes for sale? Are they for rent? Or are they for rent and sale? So if you take a look at Camden Towns, which is near 100 North and Ronald Reagan, they built 83 homes there. 41 are rentals through Upward America, and the other 42 are homeowners. If you take a look at pictures of the townhomes along the area, you see the cars, the driveways are so short, cars hang out over onto the sidewalk. You flip the next picture, you've got cars actually parking on the sidewalk. And it's not just one car, it's a bunch of cars. So I question cars parking on the road. How do you get an emergency vehicle down that street? The residents of the town of Avon deserve better. We are against these town halls. We have 85 residents from Prairie Manor, 900 East, Fleener Court, staying united against this project because of safety concerns over 900 and the devaluation of the homes on Prairie Manor. So again, there's 85 residents have signed saying, stop this project. Are there any questions?
Thank you, sir. Interest time, I want to make sure there's others have time to talk here. Are there?
Ron Fraser?
And sir, I'd ask that you reiterate what you said earlier at the beginning of the meeting too, because it pertains to this hearing.
Ron Fraser, 8806 Prairie Trail, Avon. And again, I wanted to mention the presentation that Tim has just provided was provided to the town council within 7 days of us getting the letter. The research he did there, very commendable, got it done very quickly. Unfortunately, we were told it was too late to be given to you for consideration prior to this meeting. So I feel that, again, we're a disadvantage compared to the petitioner in this particular situation. Regarding the traffic study, I'd like to say in regards to the previous traffic study that was done for Costco and its impact on us, from my point of view, it clearly didn't take into account the impact on us because of the issues we've got getting out onto 900. And any future traffic study, I hope that is going to also look at all of these new businesses that are proposed to go in, as well as these 80 odd new buildings, and the fact that there might be 80 buildings or houses, but the fact is that generally Americans seem to have 2 cars per house, and you're looking at 160 cars in there approximately, in my opinion. And because of the issues we've currently got getting out of 900, that driveway is going to be very close to our driveway. So now we've got extra issues of trying to get out with our road being below 900, and the fact that now we've got these people also trying to get out at the same time, and we are reasonably close together in that regard with the proposal. I think that pretty well covers what we had to say, because everything was covered before with regards to getting out on the road with the traffic being parked on 900. Sorry, one other point I will note is that the 8-foot walkway they're talking about, if the cars are parked all over the footpath, what's the point of that if you can't use it? If I walk around Shiloh Farms, quite often I'm finding that the cars are parked on that footpath. I've got to walk in the street to be able to get round. So it's great to have an 8-foot walkway, but if the streets are so narrow that they've got to park on the footpath, then it's kind of useless. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else signed up to speak?
That's all that's signed up to speak.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak that hasn't signed up? And if you'd like to, just please come forward. All right, so we're talking on this case for or against? If not on this case, okay. Then, seeing no one else, we'll close public comment. Discussion. So I do have a question. I guess it's for the petitioner. You had mentioned this and that was brought up again, and I wrote a question down to ask this. Is this ownership of townhomes, or is it rental of the townhomes? You mentioned leases. How is this to be set up?
Yeah, it's intended to be ownership, when it's not going to be a for rent community. That's not the plan for it. And quite frankly, the for rent wave has sort of ended due to the increase in interest rates and the increased cost of land. Quite frankly, that's why the prior project here backed out. That for rent model that was worked at 2.5% interest rates doesn't work so well at 8% interest rates. And so we would fully expect this to be a owned townhomes, single family owners. Now, obviously we can't control someone if they do lease out a unit at some point. We have agreed to the no VRBO, the no Airbnb, but we do permit leases. For instance, if someone gets transferred on a job for a short period of time, they might not want to sell, they might want to rent their home. Quite frankly, perfect example, that's me right now. My wife and I sold our townhome. I found another place to go, and I'm renting a home from someone whose youngest child went to California for college, and they decided to move out there until the child's done with college, and they're going to come back. So that type of situation arises. So we have that flexibility, but certainly won't have any transient type rental, and we'd have no intent right now or no belief that this would be a for rent type community.
All right, thank you. You can go ahead and have a seat for now.
Okay, so I can address some of those other
sorry.
comments.
Thank you. You get time. Nobody's reminding me after the next part. You get a chance to respond to what you heard.
No problem. And I'll be
Apologize.
brief. I appreciate your time and thank you very much for your time tonight. A couple things brought up. There was the question about that buffer to the north. Do we have that there? There we go. So that there's that existing tree line to the north. Like I said, we have increased that to a 50-foot buffer. To give you an idea, if this was a commercial development, commercial would require a 30-foot buffer. But we've agreed to that 50-foot buffer there. We also have the deep yards for Prairie Manor. And then to your point earlier about the possibility, we're going to preserve those trees, maintain those trees. If any tree does have to be moved due to an easement issue, we'll commit to replace that 2 for 1. So we'll put up 2 new trees for any tree that had to be. We don't anticipate any having to come down, but just to give you a level of comfort on that, we'll commit to put 2 new trees, and those trees would be subject to staff approval as to what we would plant there. And we're okay with that. There was some discussion about width of streets. These streets are 30 feet wide. I believe town standard's 28 feet. So they would meet the town standard on width. And then while this will be in our covenants, conditions, and restrictions, we can go ahead and commit to it as well, that there will be no parking on the streets. The driveways are deep enough to where 2 cars can fit in the driveway, 2 cars can fit in the inside the garage. Those 2 cars can fit on the driveway with sufficient width so that they're not blocking the sidewalk. The driveways are deep enough for that. And then the 8-foot path wouldn't be blocked at all. That's separate as it winds through the community. But we would agree to that that the CCRs, the covenants that would come in the subdivision, would prohibit parking on the street. And then lastly, with respect to the traffic study, like I said, that we've commissioned to be done. While that's not triggered by this development, we've agreed to do that. And that would look at the current and then projected traffic that's going to be seen on 900. And then obviously we'll have to look and see how that affects this development. Last thing I'll say is that it's highly unlikely that this site gets developed as R2. I hate to use the word impossible, but it's just challenging given the cost of land and the cost of infrastructure for this develop as an R2 development where you're going to have 30 units there. It cannot be developed townhomes R2 because R2 doesn't permit townhomes. So we look at what's the best use for the site. How does the site get developed? And as staff has pointed out, the townhomes make a very nice, ideal transitional use between the heavy commercial to the south and the single family residential to the north. R3 would allow 4 units per acre. R4 would allow 10. We're proposing roughly 7 right in the middle between there. And quite frankly, the 4 units per acre just doesn't work math-wise either, given the cost of land and cost of infrastructure. Thus, the request for the 80 townhomes on the site. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions and appreciate your consideration.
I have one question while you're here. This emergency access, has Costco agreed to this?
Haskell.
Costco.
Oh, Costco. I'm sorry, they said Haskell. Costco has been open and favorable to that discussion. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say they've agreed in principle. We have to work out terms about what the gate looks like and maintenance easement. What makes most sense is we'll probably put the gate at their end of the parking lot so that we will maintain the driveway all the way through on our side. But then there'll be shared costs. We'll have to get an access easement through them, so there'll be shared maintenance costs for the drive aisle, and we would work through that with them. So there's a general yes, but we got to get the details worked through, and that would have to be done after the part of the plat approval or after plat approval before we could start construction.
Is that a commitment that would be good to make part of any motion if we were going to forward a favorable recommendation? It's not written down, it doesn't happen, so, okay. Would it be a commitment then? I mean, commitments are.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Bill, there was another handout at our station here. Do you know who that came from? This gentleman indicated he gave us this one. Who gave
Mr.
us?
Pettigrew gave that one as well.
Oh, he gave both.
Yeah, that was the one. So the two complaints made, one at the beginning and one here that Remonsters didn't have the opportunity to provide documentation to you all before the hearing. So it gets back to two things. One, what's the purpose of the notice? The purpose of the notice is to inform citizens that we're going to have a public hearing and they have the right to testify at the public hearing. That's what the notice is for. When we get information, if we get information 7 days prior to the hearing, if we get information before we deliver your packets to you, all that information gets sent to you when we deliver the packets. If we get information 2 days before the hearing, we keep it, we make copies, and we put it at your stations. So the complaint that the one gentleman is making is, we get 10 days notice. We have to 3 or 4 days to come together with something. We submit something and we're told it's too late. Well, it's not too late. You guys get the information. You just don't get it as soon as we get it, right? I mean, what we don't want to do is send you a packet on Monday and then get something on Tuesday and drive around and give you that, and then get something on Wednesday and drive around and give you that. So if it's not there on the 7 days prior to the hearing, we keep it. We make copies and we put it at your stations so you have the opportunity to do it. The purpose of the notice is to give the citizens notice that we're having a hearing and they can come and testify at the hearing. If they give us stuff, you get it. If we get it before 7 days prior to the hearing, you get it with your packet. If it's after 7 days prior to the hearing, you get it at your station when you come in. So I don't agree with the notion that it's somehow unfair to a remonstrator that they give us something 3 days prior to the hearing and we don't jump in our car and deliver it to you at your doors.
Thank you. Other comments? Discussion?
Well, my concern is, it's probably the wrong night to pick this, but we just had an issue with a prior petitioner about a traffic study, and we continued that. And we have the same issue here. And I look at the handout and it didn't come out, but if you look at the colored picture, that northern property on the Harvest Landing petition appears to be a Harvest or an Ace Hardware store. That private drive that goes all the way up to that gated emergency access by Casco, again, I think we've said this before. The last time it was here, whoever wants to develop this, there's going to be issues. And the major thing here is this traffic study. And they even said the people on the east side of 900, you really don't have enough land to get 50-foot right of way. So we have a right of way issue. I mean, what I'd like to see is, and I heard earlier that the last true traffic study was 3 years ago. Well, 3 years ago was before Costco. So now that Costco's here, let's do a new traffic study and do it from 36 to 100 north, and then go back and compare that information to the information 3 years ago and see how close we were or how far off we were. So, so my suggestion again is to continue this till you get the traffic started. That is a major piece of this, and I don't feel very comfortable in sending it to the town council with a recommendation subject to a traffic study that I haven't even seen to make that recommendation. That's it.
So I think I agree that we do need a traffic study to get a better understanding on the impact of this and other developments. Because the thing, when I looked at this before, I was like, okay, light commercial would seem for me to be a good transition. I don't have as much experience as staff does on this, but more commercial would just add more traffic to and from. So again, it's the what can be developed here, because it's going to get developed sometime that is compatible. And the staff's had a lot more planning experience than I've had as far as transition. But I think the traffic study is something I would agree that we need to get more information to be able to make a good decision. And I would like us to have that before sending a recommendation to the town council, instead of sending a recommendation to the town council with maybe a traffic study that's coming to them. I feel like that's part of our job, is to make that determination and make a recommendation with full information.
Well, I think in addition to this whole traffic study issue is, I think the county needs to be part of it too, because Prairie Trail exits to the county, and the S curve, which is part of this, is in the county jurisdiction. So, I mean, we do talk to each other, but there are times, as we can see on the bridge on Dan Jones, is we're not on the same page to start doing that extra 2 lanes, but that's a county jurisdiction. So there's a lot of unique characteristics within this area that I think at least I would feel better with having that additional information.
I'd agree too that I'd kind of like to see the results of the traffic study instead of just saying there's going to be a traffic study.
I think too, the other thing is I'd like to see if this agreement with Costco was open-ended and you've agreed in principle, I'd like to see something in writing from them too, because that is their secondary route to get in and out of this place. And
We do have an email from representative from Costco that says they agree in principle. So we do have that. I could get you.
Okay.
Any other discussion? So would anybody like to make a motion on a favorable, unfavorable, or to continue this? And if it's to continue this, then the question, make sure we state what we're expecting if we're going to continue this, to make sure the petitioner understands what we're looking for. Or any other discussion? Would you like to make a comment? Because we're deliberating right now, so I'll be glad to entertain more.
I'll make it easy on you. We'll request a continuance to November 27th to give us time to complete this traffic study, looking up 900 East. And we're more than happy to bring that back so that you're comfortable with the results of that prior to making any recommendation.
I appreciate that. I think in addition, you've heard several of the concerns. Appreciate you responding to the concerns you heard from the residents here tonight too. So with that, we still have to make a motion to continue.
I make a motion that we continue ZA 23-05 Village Place Townhomes 2.
Well, the November
to
meeting.
the November 27th meeting. Not only getting a traffic study, I would like to, within that study, understand right-of-way designation or acquisition available, Costco agreement in writing, and county input regarding future and current road improvements in that area as well.
I'll second that.
Okay. I'll look at Bill. Did you get all that?
You got right away left, county responsibility.
Standard
County and
right there.
that's what he said, right?
I think he made the notes on there. Great.
Okay. We have a motion to continue. Can you roll call vote, please?
Paul Guckenberger,
For.
Bill Reed,
4.
Dave Kaufman,
4.
Jennifer Spencer,
Four.
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Motion carries. The is continued.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and just for educational purposes, zoning changes don't end here. They go to the town council. So if you're here for zoning and then takes next step, then town council has another meeting to go to. So just to be aware of that. Okay. I am going to entertain that, and there was a comment potentially of additional comments.
It says other business and I have some.
And if the commission be willing to grant that, I'd like to provide that opportunity. We do have comments early at the beginning of the meeting, but we'll do it under other business. And if you'd like coming up to the podium and state your name and address and your other business.
I'm Lana Scott Calloway and it's 6864 Merritt Ridge Way. And I spoke to a gentleman a few weeks ago. This is about naming streets. And I explained to him why I was kind of really wanting street name. And he said they were going to be sending it out to the public to vote on. They were going to get names gathered up and then send it out to the public. I asked him about being able to name a street, just, not have to have it voted on. Reason being, my grandfather's family was founding fathers of Avon. The log cabin that's over at the Learning Center, that was Solomon Blair's, which is my third great grandfather. The house on 36, there was a brick house on 36 that the band many years ago used for a haunted house. I don't know how many of you have been around for a long time, but that was the Blair home. And they tore it down. Well, they actually tore it down and then burnt part of it down. But then my grandfather, Russell Barker Blair, was the first graduate of Avon High School or Avon Schools. He was, him and his cousin, a girl, were the first graduates. He farmed on the northwest corner of 36 and Jan Jones Road. And then not only was he very instrumental in the area, but then his wife, my grandmother, Muriel Blair, belonged to a women's club. And she suggested that club needs to do something that would be something that needed to be done in the county. And she and her club members passed around petitions for the Hendricks County Hospital. And this last December, they honored her over at the Hendricks County Hospital on the history wall for being the person that actually got Hendricks County Hospital started, by her going around. And I rode with her around when she was going to get the petition signed. So I wondered if there was any way that the town board could name a street without having to be voted on. Not too many people know the history of the Blair name.
So I'm going to look to staff because it seems like this would be something that should go to town council and not the plan commission.
I think the plan commission that names streets versus the council.
No, the council's about to plan of how they were going to consider the council directed.
Yeah, I mean, the question that's being asked right now is 100 South. So we've put out a survey to transition County Road 100 South from, county road designation to a named street. So I believe that's what she's talking about, with sort of a pilot program so that we can rename maybe in the future other streets that are county roads.
Right.
But I don't know what the outcome of that is. I thought the plan commission was the street naming authority in the town, but it might be the town council. But either way, if it comes to you or the council, it would have to be voted on. It can't just be done.
What I would suggest is talk with the town manager. I mean, we have changed the names of streets in the past without survey or a vote by a certain body other than the town councils. So I would just suggest you get a hold of the town manager and kind of give him the update, and I'll say
Who
something.
here in this bill?
Yes,
Yeah,
Ryan
is-
Cannon.
Ryan Cannon. You got a member of the town council sitting on the board here that can help, and he just said he would pass that along too. that-
Okay, he's the town manager.
Yes.
Okay, so if you guys could just kind of say a little bit of something to him about
I'll say
what my
something to him.
request is.
As long as you come over here and give me your name again.
It's Lana Scott Calloway.
Lana Scott Calloway.
Calloway.
Got it.
And I graduated in 62 and I moved away and I've just come back after being gone about 50 years. So I would really appreciate if you guys would send a good word. Thank you.
Thank you for some history of Avon. Okay, any other business, staff report, committee reports? We're going to just go into committee reports, redevelopment.
Redevelopment, most recently, items of interest include County Road 100 South update, Dan Jones widening update, couple of, we awarded a modified quote for Midwest Generator Solutions, sprinkler system repair for the police department, and recommendation of the construction manager as constructor for Government Center at Easton Gray, and approval for the construction manager contractor for the pre-construction phase, and awarding the bid for the Dan Jones Phase 2.
Okay. BCA. Board of Zoning Appeals had one variance request to allow the 3 dumpsters along 900 for Harvest Landing Lot 2. Today was the deadline for the November meeting, and I did not receive any applications for the Board of Zoning Appeals. So as of now, it looks like that will be canceled, but subject to change.
Anything from town council?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Motion to adjourn?